Imagine a world untouched by human hands, a place where nature thrives in its purest form. Vast forests teeming with life, where every leaf and creature plays a role in a delicate balance. Pristine oceans mirroring the sky, their waters so clear you can see the vibrant marine life below. Mountains piercing the clouds, their peaks capped with snow, standing as timeless sentinels of the natural world. These untouched areas, often seen as the last bastions of wilderness, hold a powerful allure, drawing us in with their promise of unspoiled beauty. They capture our imagination, offering a glimpse of a world less marked by human activity, a sanctuary for the soul. But this vision of pristine nature, while compelling, masks a darker truth that often goes unnoticed. Beneath the surface of these seemingly untouched landscapes, a silent crisis unfolds, hidden from plain sight. The very forces that threaten our planet, climate change, pollution, resource extraction, and human encroachment, are casting a long shadow even in these remote corners of the Earth, altering ecosystems in ways we are only beginning to understand. The untouched areas are not immune. They are vulnerable, facing an onslaught of threats that push them towards a tipping point. They are facing an onslaught of threats, pushing them towards a tipping point, where the damage may become irreversible. The consequences of inaction are dire. We risk losing these precious ecosystems and the vital services they provide, from clean air and water to biodiversity and climate regulation. We risk losing these precious ecosystems and the vital services they provide, which are essential for the survival of countless species, including our own. The time to act is now. We must come together to protect and restore these natural wonders. Our collective responsibility is to safeguard these areas, not just for their sake, but for the health and well-being of our planet and all its inhabitants. Together, we can make a difference, ensuring that these pristine facades remain a reality for generations to come. Climate change, driven by human activity, is leaving its mark on every corner of the globe, even the most remote. From the highest mountains to the deepest oceans, no place is immune to its effects. The untouched areas, once buffered from the worst of these impacts, are increasingly vulnerable. Human encroachment and industrial activities are accelerating these changes, making it harder for these ecosystems to recover. Temperatures are rising at an alarming rate, disrupting delicate ecological balances honed over millennia. Heat waves are becoming more frequent and intense, stressing both plant and animal life. In the polar regions, ice sheets and glaciers are melting at an unprecedented rate, contributing to rising sea levels and threatening coastal communities worldwide. This rapid melting is also affecting ocean currents and weather patterns far beyond the poles. This melting ice also disrupts the habitats of iconic species like polar bears and penguins, pushing them closer to the brink. These animals rely on stable ice conditions for hunting and breeding, and their survival is now at risk. Changes in precipitation patterns are leading to more frequent and severe droughts in some regions, while others experience increased rainfall and flooding. These extreme weather events are becoming the new normal, challenging the resilience of both natural and human systems. These shifts disrupt plant and animal life, forcing species to adapt or face extinction. Many species are migrating to new areas in search of suitable habitats, but not all can move or adapt quickly enough. The very fabric of these ecosystems is being altered, with consequences that are still unfolding. The interconnectedness of life means that changes in one part of the ecosystem can ripple through the entire system, leading to unforeseen impacts on biodiversity and human livelihoods. Pollution, a pervasive threat to our planet, knows no boundaries. Even in the most remote and seemingly pristine regions, the insidious impact of pollution is evident. Plastic waste carried by wind and ocean currents has infiltrated the deepest ocean trenches and the most isolated islands. Toxic chemicals, released into the environment from industrial processes and agricultural practices, find their way into the food chain, accumulating in the bodies of animals, including those in untouched areas. This contamination has far-reaching consequences, impacting the health of wildlife and ecosystems alike. The air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat, all are vulnerable to the insidious reach of pollution. The consequences of inaction are clear. We must reduce our reliance on single-use plastics, transition to cleaner energy sources, and adopt sustainable agricultural practices. Our planet's health depends on it. The Earth's untouched areas are often viewed as untapped reservoirs of natural resources. This perspective, driven by short-term economic gain, has fueled a surge in resource extraction activities that threaten the very ecosystems they exploit. Logging companies, driven by the demand for timber, are encroaching further into pristine forests, leaving behind a trail of deforestation. Mining operations seeking valuable minerals and fossil fuels are scarring landscapes and polluting water sources, often with little regard for the long-term environmental consequences. The pursuit of profit often comes at the expense of environmental sustainability, creating a legacy of damage that can take generations to heal. We must find a balance between our need for resources and the preservation of these vital ecosystems. Sustainable practices, coupled with a shift towards renewable resources, offer a path forward. Section 5. Human encroachment, squeezing out nature. As the human population continues to grow, so too does our demand for land and resources. This insatiable need for expansion is leading to the rapid transformation of natural landscapes into urban and agricultural areas. This relentless expansion is pushing us further into untouched areas, fragmenting habitats and displacing wildlife. The once continuous stretches of forests and grasslands are now broken into isolated patches, making it difficult for species to survive and thrive. Roads, once a rarity in these remote regions, are being carved through forests and mountains, opening up access for human activities that threaten the delicate balance of these ecosystems. These roads not only bring in more people, but also facilitate logging, mining, and other extractive industries. The construction of dams and other infrastructure projects alters water flow and disrupts natural processes, often with devastating consequences for wildlife and local communities. Rivers that once flowed freely are now controlled, affecting fish migration and the livelihoods of those who depend on these waterways. Tourism, while often touted as a sustainable practice, can also have negative impacts when not managed responsibly. The influx of visitors can lead to overcrowding, pollution, and the degradation of natural sites. The influx of visitors can put a strain on local resources and disturb wildlife, particularly in sensitive areas. Animals may alter their natural behaviors, and local communities may find their resources stretched thin. We must acknowledge the impact of our presence and strive to minimize our footprint. This means adopting eco-friendly practices, supporting conservation efforts, and educating ourselves and others about the importance of preserving nature. The preservation of untouched areas requires a conscious effort to limit our impact and to coexist with nature in a way that ensures the long-term health of these ecosystems. By working together, we can create a future where both humans and wildlife can thrive. In the heart of untouched wilderness lies a paradise under threat. This land, once teeming with life, now faces challenges from every direction. Climate change, deforestation, and human encroachment are pushing it to the brink, but there is still hope. Conservationists and local communities are coming together, striving to protect this fragile ecosystem. Their efforts remind us that we all have a role to play in preserving the beauty of our planet. The polar regions, vast and frigid, are melting before our eyes. Ice that has stood for millennia is vanishing at an alarming rate. This isn't just a distant problem, it affects us all. Rising sea levels, disrupted weather patterns, and endangered species are just the beginning. Scientists are racing against time, studying these changes and sounding the alarm. We must act now before it's too late to safeguard these critical habitats. Beneath the waves, our oceans are in turmoil. Overfishing, pollution, and climate change are wreaking havoc on marine life. Coral reefs, the rainforests of the sea, are bleaching and dying. Species that once thrived are now struggling to survive. Yet the ocean's plight often goes unnoticed. We must remember that what happens beneath the surface impacts us all. Protecting our oceans is not just an environmental issue, it's a necessity for our own survival. In the face of overwhelming odds, there are still places on Earth that remain untouched, pristine and wild. These last strongholds are vital refuges for countless species. They are the lungs of our planet, the reservoirs of biodiversity. But they are not invincible. We must champion their protection, support conservation efforts, and recognize the invaluable role they play in our world. By safeguarding these sanctuaries, we ensure a future where nature can thrive, and so can we.